Welcome to the RSBN Live Desk. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. President Trump expected to land in roughly 15 minutes right here on the right side of history. Thank you for being with us today. It looks like a little bit of a crowd is turning out in the United Kingdom, specifically Scotland, for this landing in Glasgow. We know that President Trump will be enjoying a dinner with UK Prime Minister Starmer at the Turnberry course, really rated actually the #1 golf course in the entire world. So very much looking forward to that this evening. Also Aberdeen, he'll be traveling there. They're going to be having some lunches or so. And if you caught that press gaggle this morning, the president covering a lot relating to the deep web of lies that DNI chief Tulsi Gabbard was able to share during the press briefing with Karoline Leavitt. And Karoline Leavitt, in fact, the GOAT of White House press secretaries, she is there on Air Force One as well. So she was on this trip, very vital trip, and President Trump speaking from that press gaggle this morning, just how important it was, this relationship with the United Kingdom, and how much he's enjoying working on the trade deals with UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer, which is even more interesting because you have a free market capitalist in President Trump, and then with the Prime Minister, you have really a socialist, arguably, and all of the controls that they're putting on London, England, and the surrounding United Kingdom as well. We know President Trump having various properties, including these beautiful golf courses, where he was also asked about having the Open Championship, which last week was won not far from here, Glasgow, Scotland, by Scottie Scheffler, the fine American from the Lone Star State of Texas, who now won his 4th major. And for the sports fans out there, Tiger Woods and Scottie Scheffler, both between their 1st and 4th majors, exactly 1,197 days between those championships. So we're seeing a budding career with someone in his late 20s who is always reminding us, too, of what matters most. It's almost silly, he said, how much you want to win a championship when you go into it, because at the end of the day, it's about God, it's about family, it's about his beautiful son as well. A lovely young family, and exciting to watch how sports correlates into public policy and the pop culture, especially something like golf that President Trump really does love. He loves competition, he loves sport, and it's rare to see him not play some golf, and I'm sure he might get some in, as this is his mother's native land. President Trump, part Scottish, and a great place to be from. They have that St. Andrew cross, which also on their flag is shared with the great state of Alabama, also a St. Andrew cross, some different colors there, the white cross with the blue backdrop for Scotland, and for Alabama, the white background with a red St. Andrew cross. So from Auburn, Alabama to Glasgow, Scotland, you have some stuff in common, and St. Andrew watching over all of us. That's what we pray today on this beautiful Friday, July 25th. 2025. President Trump expected to land at 3:30 Eastern, and we look forward to bringing you on the ground there in case he's answering any questions by the White House pool that is attending this wonderful trip with him. But we know he had a long, extensive discussion this morning outside of the White House with what Tulsi Gabbard brought to us through that press Brady briefing this week with Karoline Leavitt, the not only redacted but declassified documents on Crossfire Hurricane and Russia, and the hoax that took place in the Barack Hussein Obama administration, which also bled into the AutoPen. And who was that AutoPen? Perhaps it was those Obama holdovers, those individuals who knew, especially at the DNC, that the former president had cognitive decline and was not perhaps aware of those specific pardons. And I asked President Trump this on Air Force One back on March 15th. And it was a late evening, Sunday around 11:45 Eastern, going into Monday morning's cycle of the news. And he said that's going to be up to judges to determine what's valid, what's not valid. But what we do know is that there was an AutoPen that is used for letters. For example, if you send a birthday invitation, a graduation, a wedding invitation, what have you, big moments and monumental times in your life to the White House, you'll receive a letter back from the president, the first lady, commending all of that. And many of those invitations, they can't get to everything. They do get to a lot, especially if it's at a Trump-owned property. But that is an auto pen that's used for the official signature. But never have we seen that on pardons. And never have we seen people pardoned preemptively without being charged for a crime. Whether it's Dr. Anthony Fauci or Senator Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff as it's known, the pencil neck, who is likely guilty of mortgage fraud. And all while he seems to be the key link in all of this between Barack Hussein Obama, the auto pen, crooked Hillary Clinton, communist John Brennan, Mr. 8647 Seashells himself, James Comey. You have the pencil neck, Adam Schiff, who is likely guilty of the mortgage fraud. The same idea they used to go after President Trump, whether it be Tish James in New York or what happened in Atlanta with Fani Willis. That proved not to be true. And we had the FBI raid Mar-a-Lago as a result, looking for a very specific document. A document which has now been posted on several media outlets, including our friend over at Blaze Media, Mr. Glenn Beck, diving deep into this exact issue. That all of this declassified information now being prepared and shown through Tulsi Gabbard's office as the Director of National Intelligence. And how disturbing is it that it looks as if the Russian hoax, Crossfire Hurricane, Steele dossier, all produced by a former president or at the behest of his direction with his intelligence agencies in coordination to stop you, the American people, from duly electing and then allowing him to make decisions, usurping the authority of the executive office of the President of the United States under Donald John Trump. And we saw all of this with that meeting when President Obama at the time and President-elect Donald Trump got together, and two key core issues here. Obama tells President Trump that you'll have to watch out for Michael Flynn, the general who's gone rogue. Well, we now know how his family was attacked in the lawfare that took place there, and this man literally fighting for his life and dealing with other people, including the former Vice President Mike Pence, who might have been in on this in one way or another with the deep state uniparty, far-left League of Shadows, someone who was not very honest about what took place over the course of his role on January 6th. Now, fair-minded people can disagree over that, but interesting how someone wants to be in the office of the presidency, and then you don't tell the story when you leave office on January 20th of 2021, but rather you start making up a story around that 2023 mark into 2024 in the primaries, stating that your life was somehow in danger and that was President Trump's fault. That was a claim of the former Vice President Mike Pence, and it's really remarkable because when he returned to the crossroads of Indiana with his family, all he could do was thank President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump for their gracious leadership and the way they had treated the second family in command. What changed over the course of roughly 48 months or so, but that's neither here nor there right now because there's bigger fish to fry, especially in General Mike Flynn's case when he was simply trying to protect his family. Or how about when President Obama then tells President-elect Donald Trump in the Oval Office that the next place you'll go to war with is North Korea. Little Rocket Man. And President Trump then asked the former president, have you tried calling him? You just simply pick up the phone and talk to him. And we know what happened there. There were letters exchanged and ultimately a meeting in Singapore. And then Kim Jong-un and President Trump on the demilitarized zone shake hands, and then President Trump entering that country, the first president in over half a century to do so in a place that most Americans don't know about, that has one light on at night with South Korea. So many lights, a nation of freedom just to the south of the Korean peninsula. So this president has literally shown a masterclass in dialogue and discussion and how working through peace and doing it in a strong way can make an extraordinary difference for world peace. And we will see that, I'm sure, on this trip in Glasgow, Scotland, a beautiful part of the world, especially this time of year, as they experienced relatively close to that 24-hour summer, or just a longer summer, somewhat like the Nordic countries or even Alaska. What you're seeing there, the press pool cam, and they give those calls out so the studios can see what's taking place there and the timing on everything. But we have a nice crowd that has assembled for President Trump's arrival to the emerald green lands of Scotland. Really, in so many ways, where freedom was born. You think of certain legends like William Wallace and Robert the Bruce, who stood up to freedom, stood up to tyranny, and inspired countless generations of freedom fighters to take up arms when oppressed upon. And they are people that were immortalized by stories like Braveheart and contributed to such documents as the Magna Carta and ultimately things like our own Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. The 56 signers, in fact, of the Declaration coming together and really understanding Western civilization and history and trying to bring the best together of governments over the whole history of time. And what they gave us, a constitutional republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And over our 250-year history, so much that we still have in common with our friends over the pond in the United Kingdom, although things have changed with mass immigration, mass illegal immigration, in fact, and in some cases, a letting go of their own culture, losing the Christian roots of the United Kingdom. But some are working hard to get that back, whether it's Reform Party leaders like Nigel Farage, who led to Brexit and the movement that said no to globalism, but rather that sovereignty is a good thing, that dialoguing with other cultures and celebrating European history, very important. As we really share so much in common with our friends in English common law and where we came from as a nation. And now nearly half of our country cannot answer that fact of where we won our independence from, and that being the United Kingdom. And at the time, in 1776, the most powerful military in the world, the greatest navy, also arguably the greatest empire, as we see President Trump touching down in Glasgow, Scotland. Let's take it there live now for a good shot of Air Force One.
For a holiday, weekend of calm amidst the Washington storm. That's right, yeah, very much a working holiday. So Keir Starmer, he will hook up with Donald Trump on Monday at Turnberry. They will spend time together, as I understand it, and travel together up to Aberdeen. So, you know, FaceTime, important clearly for the European countries there, as it seems to cement his relationship, which is going well with Donald Trump. They seem to appreciate each other's company. So, Keir Starmer clearly keen to progress
And a beautiful touchdown by Air Force One in Glasgow, Scotland, as it nears 3:30, right on time for this excellent meeting between UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and President Donald Trump. And we know that new trade deals having been signed, not only stateside at the White House, but also in the G7 host country of Canada in the province of Alberta. A beautiful place to go, especially this summertime if you have the chance. to maybe catch a bike or just enjoy the mountains up there in the Canadian Rockies. Truly stellar. But as President Trump works on more of bilateral agreements between great nations, such as the United Kingdom, we have him also working on ending sexual mutilation, and he has delivered. During the campaign, President Trump stating how egregious and evil this irreversible chemical and surgical mutilation is for America's children, and stating we are not going to allow child sexual mutilation, period. Now, for years, politicians have promised us on both sides of the aisle, this barbaric pseudo-scientific practice, but President Trump has had enough with it and actually delivered. So this past week, Yale New Haven Medical Center and Health Center in Connecticut, Children's Medical Center, has announced that they are ending their so-called gender-affirming care services. They join a growing list of healthcare systems across the country following President Trump's executive action. Now, Phoenix Children's Hospital stopped providing puberty blockers and hormone therapies to minors. The Stanford Medicine ended sex change surgery for minors. Children's Hospital Los Angeles closed its Center for Trans Youth Health and Development and Gender Affirming Care. Denver Health suspended sex change surgeries for patients under 19. UC Health out in California ended the so-called gender affirming services for patients under 19. Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago stopped sex change surgeries for patients under 19. The University of Chicago suspended so-called gender affirming care for minors. Now, Northwestern Memorial Hospital stopped sex changes for minors. Also, Rush Medical Center in Chicago halted the gender affirming care for new patients under 18. As you see a live shot there, Air Force One coming back around with President Trump, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt aboard that fine 757. We'll take you right there when he gets off of the plane, perhaps taking questions from the press pool, as he did this morning, touching for nearly 1 hour a number of different topics, including the Epstein files, Ghislaine Maxwell, all the way to the potential connection from Barack Hussein Obama to crooked Hillary Clinton, the auto pen, and everything that was disclosed with John Brennan and James Comey with the Russia hoax. Let's go full screen there now and see Air Force One as it comes into Glasgow, Scotland. And as President Trump gets ready to leave Air Force One in beautiful Glasgow, Scotland, the United Kingdom, for meetings with UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer and visits to Turnberry and Aberdeen and the beautiful properties that President Trump owns. You know, Turnberry now, the #1 golf course in the world, and perhaps the Open Championship, as he answered questions this morning from the White House, might be returning to that fine golf course where in the 1970s, Jack Nicklaus and Tom Watson had quite the battle for that illustrious trophy. Now, going back to what we were discussing just moments before as we admired Air Force One on the tarmac, President Trump succeeding in making sure that these minor surgeries, these gender-affirming cares, are no longer a practice at some of America's finest campuses when it comes to healthcare practices. Now, the Hospital of Richmond at VCU Health halted so-called gender-affirming care for new patients under 19. In addition to Children's Hospital of the King's Daughters suspended hormone therapy after puberty blockers and gender-affirming care in children under 19. Seattle Children's Hospital also doing the same thing when it comes to gender-affirming surgery. None to patients under 19. The Kaiser Permanente has paused sex change surgeries for patients under 19 as well across all its hospitals and surgical centers. So make America healthy again, right? It's mind, body, and spirit. It's the vision of Secretary Kennedy. It's the enactment of President Trump in executive orders, legislation, and simply picking up the phone and getting it done for countless other companies, private and public partnerships. And that's leadership in real time, as we've seen extraordinary new trade deals happening through the use of tariffs and through the use of invitations and discussions, with now nearly 30 leaders around the world coming to see President Trump in the West Wing of the White House. And that includes UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer, that will be enjoying somewhat of this retreat, a working retreat with President Trump, as many of the activities over the weekend are closed pressed, but some great evening activities tonight to enjoy dinner, supper at beautiful Turnberry, and then going to Aberdeen for some lunch activities. And I'm sure probably President Trump will have some golf on the schedule, as he should, because this is truly the home of golf, where the game was originated and where the game is very, very much at home. It's quite the capital for all of that. So if you have the chance to go and enjoy the open courses and a variety of different getaways, this is the place to be in Scotland and throughout the United Kingdom. We are very proud to host this on RSBN's live desk this afternoon to see the 45th and 47th Commander-in-Chief, and perhaps as he exits Air Force One, we will get a line of questioning or two, as he extensively covered a number of different topics, including rebates, and really pointing out the reporter, and I did not catch the name nor the outlet of that individual, but they mentioned that they were from the Wharton School of Finance, just like President Trump. And he said, I knew you were smart, but I didn't realize how smart you were. Of course, President Trump attending that fine university in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So as we look as this economy has changed, President Trump again giving a masterclass this morning on strong dollar versus the weak dollar, and what the fake news could spin into. Oh, look, President Trump said that we want a weak dollar. It's about knowing how to use the economy to our advantage. And right now, rebates, and ideally Jerome Powell, as President Trump discussed with him yesterday during the tour of the Federal Reserve construction, bringing down those rates so those can end up owning a home. Let's take it there live now. President Trump is exiting Air Force One, arriving in Glasgow, Scotland.
ambassador to Scotland, and it's great to be in Scotland. We are going to be meeting with the Prime Minister, I guess tomorrow, a little bit tomorrow and the next day. And we're going to do some great things. Do you have any questions? What? Yes. I'll be meeting with the EU on Sunday, and we'll be working on a deal. We'll see if we make a deal. Ursula will be here, highly respected woman, so we look forward to that. That'll be good. We'll have numerous executives that we're meeting with. We're going to be meeting with a lot of people. A lot of people will be staying at Turnberry, and then we're going to Aberdeen, which is the oil capital of Europe, actually.
Mr. President, can you explain what is missing in the UK deal that you have to work out?
Nothing. We I think it's more of a celebration than a workout. It's a great deal for both, and we're going to have a meeting on other things other than the deal. The deal is concluded.
So on Gaza, the French president Emmanuel Macron just said that France will officially recognize the Palestinian state. What's your comment?
Well, that's what he does. I mean, that's fine if he does that. That's up to him. It's not up to me. I'm with the United States. I'm not with France.
And the humanitarian situation in Gaza, we hear very dire warnings about.
I think it's terrible what happened with Hamas. They tapped everybody along, and we'll see what happens. We'll see what response Israel has to that. But it's getting to be that time.
Are you concerned about the that there's a 50-50 chance of a deal? What is left to work out? What are the final sticking points?
I don't know. With the European Union, I think we have a good 50-50 chance. That's a lot.
What are the sticking points? That you
Well, I don't want to tell you what the sticking points are, but the sticking points are having to do with maybe 20 different things. You don't want to listen to all of them. Yes.
What advice are you going to have for our Prime Minister about free speech? It's very important to people here.
Well, it is, but I like your Prime Minister. He's slightly more liberal than I am, as you've probably heard, but he's a good man. He got a trade deal done. And, they've been working on this deal for 12 years. He got it done. It's a good deal. It's a good deal for the UK. So, no, I'll be seeing him tomorrow, I guess, tomorrow evening. And this is our wonderful ambassador, as you know. He's doing a good job. He's a very, very successful man. He'll be doing a good job.
The Royal and Ancient says you're going to have to improve infrastructure at Turnberry to bring the Open back. Is that something you're going to?
I don't know. The best course anywhere in the world is Turnberry. The players all want to be at Turnberry. Everybody wants to be at Turnberry, so we'll see how that works out.
The infrastructure needs to be.
I think the infrastructure in the course is good. In fact, the Royal and Ancient. I don't know if you're aware of this. They spent a lot of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, or probably into the millions of dollars, and they've laid all the wire for television and for electricity under the holes of Turnberry, so that when the Open gets there, they have it all done. They paid for that.
But we're talking about roads and railway stations.
I don't know. See, I don't know what you can do. All I can tell you is that it would be the best place anywhere in your country to have. There's no place like it. There's no place like Turnberry. It's the best, probably the best course in the world. And I would say Aberdeen is right up there also. Aberdeen's great. And while we're here, I'll be with my son, and he's going to cut a ribbon for the second course at Aberdeen, which is just about equal to the first. I mean, it's going to be a battle. It's, as you know, they're very highly rated. And the second course is great. Sean Connery helped get me the permits. If it weren't for Sean Connery, we wouldn't have those great courses. No, I was never briefed. No.
Did you ask how? What are you hoping Todd Blanche interviewing Ghislaine Maxwell? What are you hoping that they get out of that?
I really have really nothing to say about it. She is being talked to by a very smart man, by a very good man, Todd Blanche. And I don't know anything about the conversation. I haven't really been following it. A lot of people are asking me about pardons. Obviously, this is no time to be talking about pardons. But a lot of people have asked about pardon. This is just not a time to be talking about pardons. Todd will come back with whatever he's got. You're making a very big thing over something that's not a big thing. You should be talking about, if you're going to talk about that, talk about Clinton, talk about the former president of Harvard, talk about all of his friends, talk about the hedge fund guys that were with him all the time. Don't talk about Trump. What you should be talking about is the fact that we have the greatest 6 months in the history of a presidency, according to a lot of people. And we had an amazing 6 months. And this is sort of an example of it. Now we're meeting with the European Union, we're also meeting with, as you know, the head of UK, Prime Minister, and I look forward to that. But we're meeting, in terms of a deal, we're meeting with the European Union, and that would be actually the biggest deal of them all if we make it.
Did you ask House Republican leaders to not vote on the resolution about releasing the files?
I was never involved in that. I'm focused on making deals. I'm not focused on conspiracy theories that you are. I mean, I watch you people. It's so sad. You ought to talk about the success of our country instead of this nonsense that you talk about over and over again.
You've done an amazing job on illegal migration in America.
I have.
People here are very worried about the situation. Record numbers.
Well, I say two things to Europe. Stop the windmills. You're ruining your countries. I really mean it. It's so sad. You fly over and you see these windmills all over the place, ruining your beautiful fields and valleys and killing your birds. And if they're stuck in the ocean, ruining your oceans. Stop the windmills. And there's a couple of things I could say, but on immigration, you better get your act together. You're not going to have Europe anymore. You got to get your act together. And we, as you know, last month we had nobody entering our country. Nobody. Shut it down. And we took out a lot of bad people that got there with Biden. Biden was a total stiff. And what he allowed to happen, but you're allowing it to happen to your countries. And you got to stop this horrible invasion that's happening to Europe. Many countries in Europe. Some people, some leaders have not let it happen. And they're not getting the proper credit they should. I could name them to you right now, but I'm not going to embarrass the other ones. But stop. This immigration is killing Europe. And the other thing, stop the windmills, killing the beauty of your countries. Thank you very much, everybody.
Last flip on the card.
And President Trump touching down in Glasgow, Scotland, answering some questions from the press pool aboard Air Force One. And this is really a working, slightly enjoyable vacation as well. He'll be visiting his properties in Turnberry and Aberdeen. Aberdeen being really the oil capital of the continent, as President Trump had mentioned. And I did not know that either, that his obtaining of these with the Trump Organization years ago, the help of the great late actor of Scottish ancestry, Sean Connery, a household name for many Americans as well. It's roughly 3:52 on the East Coast, and it is 8:52 in Glasgow, Scotland, in the United Kingdom. A beautiful place, especially this time of year, slightly overcast. And it will be good for President Trump to sit down with his friend, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer. And as he mentioned to reporters, we're a little bit different ideologically speaking, but we're working very well together on countless trade deals in order to make America great again and also to help strengthen the United Kingdom. Thank you for tuning in with us this afternoon. We hope that you have the most wonderful weekend with family and friends. Hold those ones close that you love, especially in the summer months as we celebrate this America 250, going into a golden year, truly a special time for the United States of America, with all of the success happening as we watch crucial things. What a couple of weeks in the news cycle, whether it's the Epstein files, the details there, Attorney General Pam Bondi trying to get those unsealed, but then a judge getting in the way once again. And people like Alan Dershowitz stating that all the names on there, no one involved with Jeffrey Epstein that is in the current administration, but understanding, as many experts that we've brought onto this show, in fact, stating that any of the names that might be on there, you don't want them to be guilty by association. This is a complicated scenario, and we give the benefit of the doubt to this administration that continually takes slings and arrows from a far-left legacy media that does want to see it taken down. And then perhaps the biggest breaking political scandal of all time, Barack Obama's involvement with Russia, the hurricane hoax, and also the Steele dossier. Crossfire Hurricane, something created by our own intelligence department at the behest of those in charge during the Obama administration. And the key piece to all this, Shifty Adam Schiff, the senator from California who's likely guilty of mortgage fraud. So as this continues to develop and all these stories happen right here, be sure to tune into RSBN's live desk for all breaking news coverage and your go-to live desk of the government you put into place inside and outside of the Beltway back on November 5th of last year to see your 47th president, your 50th vice president, and the 119th Congress in nearly 250 years of this great nation. For all of my colleagues on the right side of history, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you very soon. God bless.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from the Diamond and Silk Chit Chat live show. Look, don't forget to check me out right here on RSBN Network. Be sure to watch the show on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. Yes, it's imperative that you do so, okay? I look to see y'all soon. Bye-bye.